Oh, Andy, mine's a junkyard.
Okay, good morning, everybody. We're live, I guess, already. Okay, we are. All right, to the Senate Transportation Committee, and it's Friday morning, February 17th. And we're going to, three folks here to talk about the intelligent transportation technology. And so if you'll take the lead, introduce yourself, and what you want to hear, what you want to hear.
Thanks, Senator. My name is Ryan Knapp. I am the Intelligent Transportation Systems Section Chief within the Operations and Safety Bureau at the Agency of Transportation. And I'm here today to talk about the Transportation Management Center and our Intelligent Transportation Systems.
And that's us on that picture?
Full disclosure, this is not.
I was gonna say.
All right, so this is our mission statement, which is to detect, verify, and respond to incidents affecting mobility on our state road network, and to provide the public and our partners timely, accurate, and impactful travel information every minute of every day.
This is what tells them what the weather conditions are on the road and all that.
Where the plow is, maybe?
Yes, that is all in here. I'm happy to take us on tangents if you'd like.
Sure.
But please, please stop.
We don't follow the
Yes,
scripts.
questions.
I'll tell you ahead.
No.
It's my ears.
Actually, it's a good thing you didn't have a handout. The Senator Kitchen would be at the bottom.
She starts from the last.
Yeah, so you did well with that.
Don't give me anything.
So
Tough being in here, but I'm up to it.
Yeah, we're bringing in more reinforcements to keep up with it, just to let you know.
so it's a relatively small unit. We have 3 full-time operators that work 3 different shifts. So that's how we get our 24/7 coverage.
So what about 511?
So 511 is.
That's one of Senator Miles's favorites. He called it, remember you called that number once or twice?
Yeah.
You weren't impressed with the response.
They told me what the movie theater was gonna happen.
You sure you got the right?
I don't think I have the right number.
Yeah, so the phone number is no longer in service.
Oh.
That was disconnected some number of years ago. So the 511 website is our resource for the travel information at this time. So we have 3 full-time operators. We have our 1 TMC Transportation Management Center supervisor, which is Ian Kilburn, sitting to my right. And then we have our ITS manager, which is myself. So I oversee, Ian reports to me, and then our operators report to Ian.
Is the chief of security in this building part of your crew? I would think as many tweets as he sends out. He probably has some inside information.
Yeah, we're going to touch on that too. So the bottom line is we want to know about things that are happening on our state network so that we can tell the public. We're obligated to release the information that we get. So
This is actually 16 folks, that's right, it off every night.
that is a fairly newly installed camera that is right on top of
Boy,
the
are they moving with a double diamond? Oh my God, they got
Yeah.
one side of the road all done already.
Yeah,
Bridge, 1 week. Oh my.
Probably going to see some interesting traffic stuff happening
Wow,
on this
I
camera
guess so, yeah.
while that
Wow.
project's underway.
And this is mounted on a pole.
This is on the top of the exit signs. So it was, infrastructure was there, otherwise, yes, you're installing posts with these devices on. So in this case, we just have to go there and
Is it Bauer? You have solar.
that one, do you recall, Derek? I think that one is.
Yeah, I think it's for solar.
I think there's a small solar panel. I think it's kind of on the back side of the sign, so it's a little hard to see, but yeah, so we ingest this information, we make it available to the public. When I tell our story, I like to say, we're the point of contact for our partners and for the state police and our maintenance districts for AOT. So
you're feeding this out as law
Yes.
enforcement. That's probably where the chief here is getting the information that he's sending out to all of us.
Yeah, law enforcement and public writ large as well.
yes, so we've touched on a lot of this, but our biggest customers are the Vermont State Police and in our the maintenance and fleet bureau, because they're the ones, their employees are the ones that are out on the road doing this work. So we're in constant communication with them. And then of course, we share information with our sister agencies, and then of course the traveling public. So I'm just going to walk through some of our day-to-day operations, our job duties, and the equipment that we use. this is a picture of the TMC up on Airport Road. We have a large video wall in there, and we have access to all kinds of equipment. And this is a list of the systems that we use, and that I'll go into more detail as we walk through this. But our road weather information systems, which you might hear people refer to RWIS, you see these devices on the side of the roadway, collecting atmospheric and traffic information. Of course, our camera imagery, Google Traffic and Waze, which are publicly available navigation apps, so they tell a story as well.
I was told by a lobbyist that Google purchased Waze, so now Google
Correct.
is Waze. Okay.
Yep.
I'm intrigued to hear more about how you integrate with them.
Yeah, absolutely. So radio communications, we have digital radio networks. So whether our operators are remote, which we have full functionality working remote, or whether we're in the office, we have access to these radio consoles so that we can reach out to our district or maintenance drivers that are on the roadway and speak to them. So obviously, cell phones, email, social media. We get information from social media. We put information on social media. Survey 123, which is a mapping tool. Our plow finder app that everyone loves. Change our digital message signs, our changeable message signs that you see on the sides of the roads.
When you use the Plow Finder, do they give you just a number, or do they give you their new names given by the elementary school?
Yeah, so we have sort of two different applications. So we often use the publicly available website because we get tips from state police. It's snowy here, it's icy here, and one of our first things that we do is we see where our trucks are. Is there anyone out? Have they just gone through that area? Are they about to hit that area? So kind of operationally, it lets us know if we actually reach out to the district or not, or if
So this is for you, so in the public, because there's the public
Yep.
Plow Finder.
Yep.
Those are two different systems.
So there's a back end and there's a front end. The front end is public, which is just the location of the trucks. There's a little bit of a delay there.
Do they give you their fun names? Like,
Yeah, so they are actually, if you select the icons on the map now, their name does come up in the details. So that's been added. Now there's a back end, which.
this is an important question.
Yes.
Well,
Well,
Where's Mickey Mouse right now?
well, no, you laugh, but there was a steady stream of public inquiries. So
Yeah.
when are we gonna see the names? When are we gonna see the names? When are we gonna see the names? So, yeah, ever since that effort started, everyone wanted to see the actual names.
Right, because they want to follow their
Yep.
plow.
Exactly.
Would you see it as worth the effort and energies to also have municipal plow trucks be integrated and tracked in the same platform?
So municipal, and
That'd be a big job.
yeah, not just the plow trucks, but there's anything municipal. This question comes up. I just came up with the House Trans Committee as well. And we get inquiries from towns, oftentimes and wanting us to post information, issues that are happening on the roadways. It's I hate to use the word slippery slope, but that's truly what it is.
You open that door, wow.
It comes down to a resource issue, with the TMC, sheer volume of calls that we'd be experiencing.
Well, the towns could do it on their own. I mean,
They certainly could. So there's probably, I would think there's a mechanism there where if a town wanted to do this on their own and provide the necessary information, we could include that in our map, to show those locations. But it really is it's a pretty significant lift. A lot of
Well, a lot of data that you would have to collect. I mean,
Yes.
current.
and it's implementation is not very difficult. At this point, it's like you plug a device into your OBD sensor in these trucks. So the public's just seeing the location. On the back end, we see all check engine lights that are on, ABS issues. It's collecting all the information that truck's computer is developing. How much salt they're putting down. So it's a maintenance tool from an internal perspective. But the public's really just seeing those locations. So it's more than just plow locations. It's a lot more than that.
So Senator Persick's very important question. As soon as you click on them, I'm seeing all the names: Storm Slayer, Powder Pusher, Crystal, and so on.
Good. Storm Slayer is a good one.
Is that your district?
I can't remember that one.
Storms. There was just something, another state that was just doing it
Yeah,
too.
there are several states.
Minnesota maybe, it came from Scandinavia. Is that right?
Yes.
You weren't the first.
Finland or Sweden?
Yeah.
One of those countries I think was the first. Yeah.
I like to get my store name on the side for advertising.
You can can do that with public transit.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Well said. Yeah.
So oftentimes on the news or when you're watching television, there'll be the, across the screen, weather advisory and so forth. Is there a connection between what you're doing and emergency management, which they must be the
Sure.
entity that puts out those notices?
Or
So the weather advisories are pushed through the National Weather Service through different channels.
So they don't go through emergency management?
They do and they don't in some regards. So my previous job, I was the VT Alert Administrator at Emergency Management. So the National Weather Service will push through their own pathways and their own channels which interact with what emergency management does as well. They have what is called the Emergency Alert System, and that's a federal program. That's where the broadcast media will get that information through there.
As far as, so I got one this morning as I pulled in and it came over my Jeep, my Grand Cherokee, and it's a weather alert, localized weather alert for 3 counties. Be careful on the way home, by the way, today. Is that somewhere along the way? I mean, it's a localized thing. I don't know if that's something that the actually Jeep would have, or it's picking up the signal from you guys.
So that again is all National Weather Service, and essentially what they do is they have a polygon shape that they draw on their mapping software, and that pushes out to third-party vendors, which would be through Sirius XM radio and whatnot, where they're getting that data from. Also, Everbridge is what Vermont Emergency Management uses. It just passes through multiple third-party vendor weather information sites that will push that off to those other services and whatnot, like XM.
The weather service, I mean, they're ingesting our data.
Correct.
As part of
yeah, it's there's a theme here where we're very much a partner with a lot of, with the navigation apps ways, like we're taking their data, they're taking ours. Same thing, National Weather Service, we have conference calls whenever there's, a system such as what we might be dealing with here now. We have calls with them. They provide us information. So we're very much plugged in with the National Weather Service and Vermont Emergency Management, which we can get into a little bit later. But
on the point you just raised, there's a recurring issue that every time I hear it on the radio in the summer times, I feel like there's something we got to do, which is the smuggler's notch keeps having trucks getting stuck there. And if we have the ability to push information to Waze and Google, what more can we do as a state to get those apps to, regardless of what phone it is, what truck it is, to just have big blinking red sign that if you want to go through that route, that trucks over a certain size, and like make the user have to say you are driving a vehicle less than this size. We have a bill on this too.
yes, I've reviewed it. So
I'm
very,
trying to think of every option.
oh,
My
yes.
middle field is there.
I want a roundabout so they can turn around.
We put every sign we can think of on the road. Now we need to put some signs on the phones, is what I was
Yes.
thinking.
Yeah, so we've been able to talk to the 2 examples I'll use are Waze and Google directly. And the answer that we receive is we are not a commercial vehicle app. So that's directly from the horse's mouth. Their system is not built for someone to enter how long their vehicle is, because this is, the notch issue is a length issue. So, in theory, I've heard rumblings and they've asked us questions that suggest that they might be Google might be developing a trucking option. So like when you go in there and you say whether you're walking or biking or driving, what the timeline is on that is anybody's guess, but that's, we hear you, it's the same frustration. Right? I get so many emails, suggestions from the public about, all the different solutions. We've brainstormed many solutions. It's an implementation, it's hardship, it's right-of-way issues, it's the terrain, at times it's the cost. It's a very complex issue that the mapping companies say, we don't advertise that we're a trucking app. Like there's other apps for that.
People steel bars, like go through steel bars, certain size that you can't go through.
But it says it's the length, it's hard to, we'd have to turn somewhere.
Yeah, we've considered a height restriction. Certainly the difficulty with that one is the potential to stop other vehicles that are not too long, vehicles that are of similar height, perhaps even, I mean, in terms of local commerce, like I know it's, you know, we talk about box trucks delivering, you know, goods over and back. So it's,
No easy answer.
there is, it seems like for every solution, there's a counter
I know,
argument to
we
it.
talked about it for years.
Do we know if the trucking app still live up there?
So the way this works is the services that are provided for commercial vehicles, those companies have that location geofenced. So basically, it's if someone tries to go from point A to point B, you're using a commercial vehicle service, you will not go. It will not direct you to go over the notch. The problem is that the free version for, you know, even, you know, you or I, if we hop in a truck, are we going to buy a commercial vehicle? Like we're just going to, the reality is most people just use their phone.
Have you ever been to Monkey Dugway? You haven't when you were out west?
I don't know where it is.
Well, it's
But I-
What is it? What do you think?
Monkey Dugway, when you're coming back up from Monument Valley back into Utah.
Where Vermont at?
No, it's out west. And we were there and the sign said no trucks and it's just this beautiful straight road. It's like, why wouldn't you, no trucks, no trailers? Then you hit a butte
Yeah.
and it goes tortuously up the side to get up. And it was, but at the beginning, when you start out, you say, wow, what a wonderful highway here. And it's only when you get to the, where you hit the, you know, where you hit that.
I'm sure that's what happens with a lot of these truckers.
Yeah.
You know, they go on through there and they say, well,
That's what I'm
They
thinking.
wonder, where do I turn
we can
around?
make this,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden they get there.
Yeah, because my thought is,
Too late.
why wouldn't you want to, you know, why would you not?
But I'm sure you get a lot of it too, as you're traveling down through, you've got your route and all of a sudden it pops up, save 22 minutes by going this route. But I'm sure they get that and, and you know, okay, they just get it.
But they don't save the 22
Right,
minutes
no.
in some cases. Oh,
If they're consuming the data that we're sending them, I just would love to know what more we could communicate about
Yeah,
this,
so-
like rumble strips for the app or something.
Yeah, we have, you
why
know,
don't you send them a letter with letterhead, send it letterhead?
We wrote a bill.
Well, I know,
Yeah.
but you're not finding the right entity.
I'm still working on it.
Oh,
Maybe these guys can help.
well, I do have thoughts on the bill, but it's not the reason here.
but he'll let the secretary deliver the message. I think, yeah, I want to put a bat on. That's your thought.
I have an idea how this is gonna play out, but I'm just trying to get the right thing to happen.
When we were doing the Woodstock, we heard about that trucking apps were directing people. But if they didn't have the trucking app, they'd go downtown and get a ticket.
Same.
Same scenario.
Yeah, we tried to convey, in fact, we put it on our digital message signs, like, you won't fit. It's like, how do you, it's not like a prohibition, it's not like we just don't want you there, it's like,
Yeah.
you don't understand, so like, how do you get people to understand this?
It doesn't make a difference if your fine is 5,000 or 20,000, they're gonna do it, they're gonna do it, they're gonna do it.
Yep.
So think about the consequences.
Yeah, so to your point about providing information to ways, we have 2 events on the 5-1 map on the website. They're in there as incidents, and it's on either side of the notch, so that it's, if a truck driver is using our website to plan a route or something, they will see that. It says like, you will not fit, there's a limit. Due to, I don't want to say this, the data feed or the ways in which Waze runs its own shop, what we've discovered is that they don't identify those 2 events that we have on our map as actual incidents, so they remove them. So point being, if they remain on their navigation app by way, they take it from our website and they say, oh, there's, you know, this is a permanent incident that drivers should know about, they would get an audible, if you're using Waze to navigate the notch, you'll get an audible warning that reads out exactly what we have in that description, which is that, you know, if you're over 40 feet, so on and so forth. And I've worked directly with Waze, our volunteer map editors here in Vermont, and they've taken it up their chain of command. It's just,
I've never heard it done on the other side of the mountain, the other side. I never heard of it granted on the other side coming this way, not from the Stowe side.
it happens both directions.
does.
Yeah, we have the
That's a good point,
statistics.
Nobody ever plays the other side. You always hear this side. So there is incidents on the other side.
There is, you know, we've learned over the last few years that there would be even more incidents of
The other
trucks,
side, straight shooting.
of
It's
trucks
great.
getting stuck, if not for public intervention. mean, people know, you know, the locals that drive this road every day, they know, they flag trucks down.
Okay.
They stop in front of them, talk to them, explain
Okay.
the situation.
Okay.
The Parks and Recs folks, same way, when they see them, they do their best to stop. And I know for a fact that we would have, you know, the 6 or 8 that we have a year would probably be more, if not for other people in our community.
Wow, it's interesting.
I'm talking too much. One last comment on this, sir.
Yep.
So I really appreciate what you just said. I heard you say that Waze and their operations are currently not doing your incident to the commercial, not the commercial, but the consumer-based navigation apps. Well, if they were starting to become viable for devices that adequately warn phone users to go through that, maybe they might be more receptive. Do you have other recommendations on how we as a state could get them to pay more attention to this perennial issue? Maybe something to.
Yeah, it's certainly,
I'm sure that.
it's a very complex issue. You know, and I know we're getting ready to provide some feedback on the bill, which you will get feedback from us.
All you have to do is just re-engineer the road, do a little blasting, and then you're all set.
They got a bill on that too.
You won't find me arguing with that approach.
Shows up there.
Yeah. There used to be a saying, well, there still is, there's an app for that. Shit, I got a bill for that.
Oh, yeah. So back to some of the tools that we use in the TMC, you know, this RWIS and the CCTV devices is what you would consider intelligent transportation system. So like any sort of device that sits on the side of the road that helps manage traffic. That's about as basic as you can boil it down. So all of these stations around the state, we have around 55, going on 60 of them, collecting atmospheric data, air temperatures, road surface temperatures, dew point, wind gusts, and then precipitation type, and it all these values.
So this is the system, so on the weather, sometimes they'll have photographs of different road sections.
Yep.
I don't know, there's one in Cabot on Route 2,
Yep.
there's, I can't remember where they, maybe Royalton or.
Bethel, there's one in Bethel, there's one in Hartford.
Yeah, oftentimes they'll have like 4 of them posted.
Yep, they're likely grabbing that from our footage. Yep, and the same thing. This is a big tool for the public. They like going to see the visuals, what the road actually looks like when they're trying to travel during a snowstorm. And this internally, we use this number here, this level of grip, which is it's basically road friction. So it's the grip between your tire and the roadway.
I had a little problem with that was it Friday? Thursday? Why not? When you're talking about friction, when you're going up the road and that long hill by Molly's Pond in Cabot, and I was going like 35, and then I looked at my thermometer, I was going 53. I think I wasn't getting quite as much.
It'll attract
The
it.
kilometers going up, the car's going slower.
Yeah,
Yeah, so this is this value, we don't make
so that's
this.
an interesting value.
Yeah, so 0.82 is like a bare and dry roadway. That's optimum friction, that's safe travel conditions. You know, if the road gets wet, this is probably going to dip down into like the 0.7s. Any kind of snow or ice, it's going to drastically decrease, and it can go as low as like 0.1 or lower if it's really icy out there. So this is another tool that we use operationally when we get complaints or tips from BSP or the districts. You know, we try to verify the information. Because we essentially dispatch for the maintenance districts. If there's no one out in the roadway and there's a problem out there, we are calling the district to share the information, let them deal with it.
And the surface temp is an actual reading of the surface. Are you like shooting a temperature?
Yeah, it's some sort of, and I know that this equipment technology is evolved over time. So, you know, years ago, yeah, it's probably an actual sensor in the roadway. Now it's more of like an infrared. But, you know, everything has to be calibrated or aimed. You know, the goal in these is to like get a wheel track, because like, you know, who cares what the shoulder looks like?
Right.
We want to know what, you know, where the tires are hitting the road, what are the conditions.
So are you manning this center 24/7?
Yes.
So then you would have this data, and then it would be the alert to call out the driver.
Yeah, that's right.
So how does that, you have, you go through the district, or are there drivers that are automatically on call, and therefore the call goes directly to the individual driver?
Good question. So I should clarify the operations and safety bureau, where the TMC is and all of this ITS equipment, where we manage it, is separate from the maintenance district bureau. So I can't speak directly into how they manage their shop, but our role is to provide the information to them. So they have access to the software as well. There's alert messaging options in the software, so that if a maintenance supervisor wants to know when that grip value hits a certain point, or if it starts snowing, or whether they can set up rules. I want to get a text message, or I want to get an email, so that if they happen to be sleeping or it happens to be on the weekend, they get some sort of an advance warning. And they could set those alerts for any number of these systems. They could set one, outside of their jurisdiction, so they get a warning, ahead of time. And the same thing for the folks in the TMC and in our shop, we can access the same information, and it can be a cue, like, the weather's starting now, it's time to make some phone calls. So yeah, we do this verification because, every time we call the district, someone goes out there, it costs money, if they're not already out. So we try to make sure, this is a tool that we use, try to verify the tips that we get, so that we're not sending people out on wild goose chases. This is just an example of the interface with the RWIS stations. You can see in the list here, that's some of the locations, and these are just camera images from yesterday, I think.
Yesterday or the day before, I can't remember what I pulled those.
It's kind of interesting, you call them, like, is it humidity, relative humidity?
Yep.
The variation depends on area of the state, from 82 to
Oh, yes.
50, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
It's really,
Is your long-term plan to put more of these out, deploy more of these?
Yeah, so that's, in my job, I administer the ITS management plan, we call it, so the Intelligent Transportation Management Plan. It's a 5-year plan, and we're, historically and moving forward, we're on average installing 4 new RWIS systems every year, and that, in addition to that, 2 upgrades. So basically, of our existing systems, new technology on them, take some of the older systems and upgrade.
so what is your goal in terms of numbers? around the
Yeah,
state?
great question. That I might have to get back to you on. I do know that, strategically speaking, we're not going to install 4 new systems in perpetuity for decades. Right? So that's we have very good interstate saturation with these devices, and we're having a conversation now with the maintenance districts about the locations for new systems to be installed this year, which is, it's about the need. Can we put one in a location that serves multiple maintenance jurisdictions? Yep. So some of these they're strategically placed in, like, microclimates, where you might have something happening that's not happening around it. And just kind of geographically having them spaced out to some degree, so that you're getting a good picture, because this is telling us, this is the information at a single point, right, on the roadway. It's not, you have no idea what's happening in between. You can extrapolate that out and make an educated guess. But yeah, at some point this will be more of a maintenance mode, but for now we're looking to continue.
Future is all heated highways.
There you go.
Would be,
So, be able to heat the highway like your house, stay with the highway, you solve the problem.
There are some cities around this country that are putting just about every traffic light is an intelligent system, maybe not to this degree, but is the state, I know a lot of municipalities own and manage those things, but is that part of your long-term plan?
Yeah, it's our signal engineer is actually Derek Lyman, he's sitting right next to you, but yeah, there's Vermont's in a unique situation in terms of, like, the density of the types of issues that some other states deal with. Traffic signals are very unique in the sense that you have power, you have some level of communication there. Yep, and you can, Shelburne Road's a perfect example. Like, if all those signals are working together, it's gonna be much more efficient. So that's Derek can speak to more of that.
And we've talked, that's where our units kind of combine, is we do similar things with tech. The grip data, we're gonna put more salt at the stop bar, so, like, we've cameras are useful potentially, but, like, as far as having the same type of tech,
atmospheric stuff would be helpful, but we found that it's more applicable to have it on like an arterial, just so you can you get more value in the data than at an intersection per se, but it's, yeah, definitely another cross-sectional piece. And we've looked at like, our company that we work with to do the weather stations, they've developed a new probe that we're gonna test that can go in between our stations. So like it's more about it infers.
Yeah, it's just a data point, groundcast sensor. So they have like their own little cellular modem in them, and like they have like a 3-year life. So like you drill a hole in the road, you put this in there, and then you expect it to last 3 years, and then after that, you got your money's worth out of it.
Yeah, cycles.
But the theory is you can deploy these in a inexpensive manner because the full systems are much more costly, but you can sort of fill gaps in your RWIS network. And then what we're going to be piloting, we applied for a grant. What we're hoping to pilot is it's road forecasting, so road condition forecasting. So the company that we work with, our vendor, they have a new platform, these algorithms. It's ingesting all of this data in real time, and it's considering what the weather reports are, and you can integrate it with our AVL data, not just the locations of the plows, but the actual salt information, like how much material is being put down, what time is it being put down, and the whole purpose of this product is to get all of that data, match it all together, and predict what the road conditions are going to be. So in a day like today, it could be super helpful. Like, it's going to get cold and it's going to freeze. There's going to be ice somewhere, right? It's hard we don't know where it's going to be. We have an idea, but the thought being that this could say, hey, at 2 p.m., this is when you're going to want to start paying attention. This is when things are going to freeze over. It's sort of like it's very next gen. It would be quite the advancement if we could, not be more proactive instead of reactive to these situations. So the sensors that Eric was talking about, it's another data point to help feed the algorithm.
Those plow trucks are just amazing technology in them today.
Yeah.
It is.
I mean, it took the question on.
Yeah. So one of the
Do you like
reasons-
speed? Do you like
I like that.
do you like lights?
We gotta
What
get
about
back.
roundabouts?
We're good too.
Oh, those are good.
If you were driving your Cavalier, you wouldn't go so.
Well, I'll say this is great. I hope you all have all the funding you need, because I feel like for the next 10 to 20 years that we need our roads to be as intelligent as our cars. And this is going to be a great opportunity for both use-based assessment as well as congestion management, and for automatic vehicles, for vehicles self-driving. We're going to need to stay on top of all this. So I'm excited to see all
How
the
much collect fees?
fair assessment based on usage of our roadways.
I want to be clear on that. I want to tee that up for you.
No, we want to get all users of the road to pay.
Place the gas tax. Those that use the roads more, pay more.
Okay, let's not get off track.
Yeah, so this is just, again, these radio consoles that we use. It's like there's a life safety component. There's not cell service everywhere. Our folks are out there driving around, so we monitor the radio traffic.
Does UT have any cell towers? Like, have you looked at putting in your own towers and to get cell service in the area?
No, we have not. It's really that we've looked at the radio network. We went out for an RFI a couple of years ago, basically asking the question, what would it take to replace the entirety of our radio infrastructure? So that involves DPS, the state police, our maintenance garages, all of it, like the handheld radios, like everything. And it was a pretty big price tag, but yeah, so those conversations, it's at least things that people are thinking about, because it's an aging infrastructure, all of it.
So when I think of road safety, part of that is being able to call out if you have an accident. There's parts where you can't. So.
Certainly.
So like, and I apologize, I don't want to revisit ground that you've already covered. But so like that system that's on top of Sheffield Heights, and so that's communicating out on a cell signal that you guys are, you just have like a regular
Yeah.
simple cell phone plan.
Sounds very basic, but it's the same exact type of technology. It's very similar to what you get your internet through in your house. It's a modem. your cell modem, very similar. It's just a little box that goes, it's the same way we communicate with our message boards. It's how we get data from the RF station.
Oh, so the message boards, you guys can, I didn't realize that. I thought you had to go in there and actually type them in, but
You can.
but you can communicate them with them. Oh, that's kind of neat.
Yep, so literally we just have a program, type in the message, we hit go, and it gets there, if there's cell service at at the location.
Something about the political stickers on the sign up there on Sheffield Heights.
Well, they actually have, like, everybody is going by and they're putting their mark on there for, it's more of the traveling public putting stuff on as much as anything. Well, I was also very glad to see that you guys, of course, some years ago, when you first put that up there, you put that on the passenger side roadway with a solar panel. I said, oh my God. And then the next day I go by and there's a crack in it, and they knocked that thing off the pole, it seemed like 2 times, and then you guys moved it into the roadway, and I was quite disgusted that it would even happen, but I could see it. I said, that's just not gonna go well.
Is that a high point, Sheffield Heights?
It is, yeah, it is, the highest point of Interstate 91.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's another
That's a climate
large
itself.
consideration when we're considering
Yeah, the
where
height.
the new one, it's like, we want to put them where the weather's going to be the worst.
Well, you can do Walden Heights too, that's,
Yeah, but you
anything that
guys-
brings the heights of the land.
Right.
It brings, as you say, the climate's,
Yeah, any anomalies, like both flags.
and you know exactly where they are, where
Yeah.
those
Yep.
climate changes.
Yeah, so social media is what we post our incidents, what we learn about, we post them on social media.
Twitter?
We do. Oh,
Do you use Twitter?
If I'm just trolls, use Twitter, so I stay with them. One Facebook.
Oh, he's not a Musk guy, must be. Oh, okay.
All the kids are on Instagram and what's TikTok?
TikTok.
Yeah,
TikTok.
you're on there.
yeah, so we
I don't
use
know, but I
Twitter and Facebook. So you'll find our info on Twitter and Facebook. That's where we go. So this is part of our partnership with the maintenance districts and how we get a lot of our information first thing in the morning. They have it's a geographic information systems tool. So on their phones, we've built a survey. It's essentially a list of questions that we're asking them. So when they head out on the patrols in the morning, they tell us what they're going to be up to for the day. So whether it's fighting snow or limbing trees or fixing a bridge, we get these data points from the district supervisors that cue us into what their plans are for the day. And this is a huge help for a road condition report that some of you may or may not have seen. It's a report that we put out at 6 o'clock and 3 p.m. 6 o'clock in the morning, 3 p.m. in the afternoon, every day of the week, Monday through Friday, and then we will do it on the weekends if there's actually weather coming. But this is a directive that started about 3 years ago, and the purpose of this is to provide it to the media. So we have a listserv for the media. We say, this is what we're experiencing this is what drivers can experience for the morning commute, the afternoon commute. And this information that our folks on the road give us, is very helpful. It says, is there 2 inches of snow on the road? Is it icy? Is it very dry? It allows us to tell the media outlets what drivers can expect, what motorists can expect for that brief snapshot in time. I've heard our reports regurgitated on WDEV, CAX, NBC5. So every once in a while they pick up on these and they'll use our reports and what's on here, which is helpful.
Thought it was the next slide that was coming.
Yeah, so we kind of we're circling back to the AVL information. So this is the back end and the front end that I was speaking about. You can see on the left-hand side, it's a little busier. It's just because there's more information in there. You can see in the Gulf. It's right there at the Dill building. So yeah, this is the difference between the.
What's your choice of plow?
I'd rather not say. I want to tip my hand.
Yeah, so this is, again, with some of the tools, New England 511. So we administer that website. This lower left, this is an image of the website. This is an example of some road work, some road maintenance that was happening, what the user will experience, the start time and end time.
Is OnStar then, that's what, just a software that you get with certain vehicles? And
I believe Chevrolet products or GM products, yeah.
So Waze and Google uses the data that you send out. Now, Waze and Google collect crowdsource generation of events. Do you consume their information about road obstacles, roadkill, and all that?
Yeah, so you can really go down some rabbit holes, especially with the Waze app where people can enter so many different things. We have Waze pulls the data feeds, like on the 501 website, any people can go in there, they can get like the actual data feed, so they can, if you Google around the internet, you're gonna find our camera images in random places, and it's because we serve them up for the public. Anybody can go get them and do what they want with them. So Waze essentially does that. They'll take like our incident feed, they ingest that information to put construction projects on their app, incidents, and it gets very complicated because Waze says we need the data in this format. Like this is how we can automatically ingest it. Like it has to be, you have to check all these boxes. This is what we need. The reality is all of the states generally do some different format. There's no, so kind of, there's the Eastern Transportation Coalition is a group of 18 states or 17 plus DC. And part of our efforts is to sort of, have one voice so that when we go to companies like Waze or Google, it's not just, little old Vermont saying, hey, we need this or we need that. It's a coalition of folks saying, this is what we need. And so one of our goals is to identify a common data feed because it would make it easier for this private public partnership in this pushing and pulling of data back and forth. If these companies like Waze and Google, they know exactly what to expect from a large number of states. Like it's the same thing. They're not having to build custom stuff for every state just so they can ingest their information. But yes, as far as incident detection and clearance, we use Google, their heat maps, their traffic heat maps, it turns red and cars stop, right? So that's good for us. It helps us do our job. We can get alerts directly from Waze when there's a delay of 20 minutes or more. We can get emails from them. There's also ways to integrate Waze's data feed directly into our management software. So
are we doing that?
We are not actively doing that. There's some work to be done in terms of confidence levels and reliability, because you have a public user that's saying something's happening. We only want the information from those people with very high scores so that we know what they're saying is actually true, because we're turning around and making that information public on our website. So it's an option, and it could be a future enhancement. Is sort of like, let's figure out what set of this information we want to take. Like we want the highest confidence that this information is accurate. And then there's ways to automatically create, like if there's.
I mean, and you have to be a little careful too, don't you, with the partnerships that you develop? I mean, like with Waze, when they're telling you where the police are and all of that, I mean, that kind of goes a little bit against what you're trying to accomplish. I mean, you're trying to establish safety out there, and then you have a site out there that's actually telling you where law enforcement is and all of that. So, I mean, those are a little bit delicate partnerships,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you're correct. And along those lines, we've had discussions about taking, that AVL, that plow finder information, and providing that to Waze, so that when you talk about safety, if you're using Waze, you're driving along the road, like say it's whiteout conditions or something of the sort, that driver can get an audible alert saying, hey, there's a plow truck right in front of you. Like you're about, 1/10 of a mile, whatever, however Waze wants to work it out. We can provide that information to Waze so that they can warn motorists when they're about to encounter a plow truck. That's the same part, a similar conversation. You gotta be careful.
Have we had any plow truck accidents this year?
I know we have. I'm not privy to the details.
We had one, Joe was at one day, and he had just before we started, oh God, yeah, I don't know where it was or whatever, but he had mentioned it.
Well, they try to go by the plow, 60 miles an hour, and the plow takes a lot of space. They just don't slow down.
I'm talking more than usual, but it's my favorite subject. So to your point, Senator Nichols, and I've raised this before, and I think it's worth considering. I'd love to hear your thoughts. But since the Waze users are reporting to law enforcement, and they're going to continue to do so, 2 summers ago was driving down to the Florida Keys. You've been to the Florida Keys, there's one road, and so people just speed, and they come into these towns and they want to slow them down. So what they do is they take old police cars, the dummies, and they just plant them on the side of the road, and people are reporting them. And then on Waze, there's a cop. So you think it's a speed trap, but it's just an old police car sitting there.
But it's good because you're slowing down.
So can we do this with a notch? So a couple of police cars with some dummies sitting at the 2 points.
People don't, I think the people that are going through that chart don't even think that they're breaking the law. They're not like, I know I'm not supposed to kind of do it.
Yeah,
They're just,
If they understood what the consequences, they wouldn't do it.
yeah.
But they just think it's assumed that they can go through it. It's not, I don't think they're doing it because I want them to do it. I think they do it because they think they can do it.
Yeah.
Well,
Because they're not, they're not aware, I think.
Not aware, just go for it. Wow.
No trucks. Maybe that truck's gonna be.
If you get ways to say that,
So put the old.
well, no truck. No, but that's just like, there's police, but they're like, well, I'm not gonna get pulled over because I'm not speeding.
Yeah, well, from the feedback that we get from the drivers, they're going to say, or they often say, well, I know I shouldn't have been here, but I didn't know where to turn around. So like, I'm just thinking of a police car example, it might scare them a little bit, but
That's why
Reality
we need
is-
the roundabout, you see, so they can turn around.
yeah, and we worked on,
Maybe one of those like railroad things, you know, we drive on the turn.
Like a turn
Yeah,
roundhouse,
yeah, the ramp.
We're just sitting
blow the
Yeah, yeah.
trucks.
That's national forest, right, I think. But is it?
No,
State.
stay, I don't think it's gonna.
yeah, we've touched on message boards a little bit, but live incidents, is the road closed ahead, is there lane closed, is traffic stopped?
It's that trans committee on.
And we also have,
Can
we
we
have,
Yeah.
we did that just for you folks.
Plaza General Store, can't we with arrows?
My wife loves your humorous posts. I don't know about you guys, but she-
Yeah, they got some good ones.
Yeah, they do.
What's your favorite?
The one they had Valentine's Day, what they had for.
That was the slush and snow.
Oh, yeah, that's right, slush and slow, go slow or something like that. You notice them when they're.
Snow
they're very
and slush
catchy.
don't rush.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's our unit in conjunction with our highway safety office that
I
we
happen to
brainstormed.
remember Alex Portalupi's son came up with one of the first ones that was
Ah,
really
yeah.
clever.
Welcome to the dark side.
Yes.
Not yes.
And that,
Not
that
wearing
was,
your seatbelt, welcome to the dark side or something.
so that was one of the first of using, that, communication that would really, people would pay attention to.
Yeah, that's kind of the goal is that, the studies always say, if you just put the same mundane message, people become numb to them. It's information saturation and they just ignore them. So that's really been one of our goals and the feedback's been great. People talk about them, they discuss it, they go to the dinner table and they tell their parents what they saw on the side of the road, or there's numerous examples of great feedback and, people are talking about the messages that are related to safety because,
They're catchy.
I think the click it or ticket one was probably the most prolific message that you could ever have.
So you won't see that anymore.
No, I know you won't.
Right now, it's gotten over the
Right.
Yep.
Right.
We already touched on this as an example of the road condition report. Again, just trying to take that statewide synopsis of what the travel conditions are and providing it to our media outlets and letting them do what they wish with it. I want to make sure we touched on this. So this is the Agency of Transportation has an ICS system, so an incident command system. The military started these sorts of organizations for responding to emergency situations. So AOT has our own, comprised about 120 volunteers, air quotes on that, but around the agency that fill roles. And the Transportation Management Center is in the planning section. And so we will shift, if we have an ICS activation, for a big flooding event or a large snowstorm, something that's going to affect a lot of our roadways in a short amount of time, we can activate, and the TMC shifts from like sort of our steady state to our crisis mode. So we'll all be in person in the TMC. We'll surge the TMC with a second operator to deal with a higher volume of calls. We typically have a GIS professional, so a mapping professional that's in there with us to help us produce this common operating picture. there's a bunch of zeros here, and that's a good thing because that means we're not activated and there's not something going on. But this is a publicly available map that we keep track of all of our road closures that are related to a specific event.
So did we have this with Irene, or is this something was developed?
No, I'm not sure of the exact status of an ICS system for Vermont, but I know that where we are now was more or less a direct result of Irene. Like, we need to get a better handle on this. So, there's regional commands each corner of the state, and then there's a central command with all of our leadership, and it's just.
So after Irene, actually, there was that flooding in Fort Collins area, Big Thompson camp just blew out, and Vermont engineers went in Colorado. This right after Irene. Yeah, I know, and there was they had flooding, and it took out that whole roadway. It was after Irene, and Vermont engineers actually went out.
Yeah, because the road follows the river there.
Yeah, and that it's really very constrained. And down into Poudre Valley.
Yeah, a long town of Lions.
Yeah.
Just amazing me how many people don't react to signs or road conditions, and they just drive like there's no tomorrow. I mean, this morning coming over, you have to be careful. And yet they're going by me like crazy. It's just common sense. I just don't understand. It's just, I don't care how much signs you put, whatever it is, they're going to go. They're going to go crazy. And wow, it's hard to believe, but there doesn't seem to be a reaction to what you try to do for them to slow things down.
It can be rather frustrating in the work that we do because
you work hard to make it safe, and they just don't care.
People get, whether it's a public or local, whoever it is, they get worked up over certain situations.
They go on the left lane, they'll go by you, and it's icy, it's snowy, it's slushy, but and one morning I saw 3 cars ahead of me go off, but they accepted themselves. Don't blame the road. I mean, it's just crazy.
The vast majority of incidents on our roadways relate to behavioral aspects. It's not, the powers that be think we can engineer our way out of all these things. And the reality is it's behavior. It's really hard to control other people's behavior. So, yes.
She got a 1973 car.
No, I have a 23, I have 24, and a 31, and a 70.
Honda's the 20.
And I have a 2010. My newest car is a 2010.
It hasn't rusted out, and it's 20 years
Well,
old. I mean, I see the rust on it, but a lot of my cars rust within 10 to 12 years. I can't get them past inspection.
well, I'm probably, this is my last chance on this one. They make.
All the car dealers are all lined up.
Yeah, they're.
Oh,
There's only one car dealership.
Well, she's gonna price check it.
Her brother-in-law's gonna give her.
She's gonna price check him a
Go
little
to all
bit.
his different.
Oh, yeah.
Her brother-in-law can give her one every 6 months.
Yeah.
Drive it into my driveway and I'll buy it. I mean, I hate shopping. I hate paying for cars. All they do is get you from A to B.
Too many drovers right away.
What? Ooh,
You try to register that vehicle?
well, I do register though.
$100 more.
But I only buy my license 1 year at a time. I'm like Gerald Morse. So if I don't.
I served with Gerald Morris, older Jack. I remember he sat over here. He'd only buy a driver's license 1 year at a time. He said, I'm not gonna give him money for 2 years if I die. He said, I never forgot that. And he was serious. He'd do everything on a 1 year basis, but he said, I'm not gonna
pay ahead.
I'm not paying ahead.
I know.
Yeah.
My grandmother never bought green bananas for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
No.
Hedge your bet.
Yeah, so I think it's important to mention that the Transportation Management Center is the point of contact for VEM. So in a crisis event, if VEM activates, AOT is always there because any emergency in Vermont, it's going to affect the roadway. So we have a person from Operations and Safety Bureau that will go to the EM, and they're liaising with the TMC. So we have that constant stream of conversation and information going from the EM into the TMC. And we connect with the Vermont Emergency Management frequently, even in steady state. Ian can attest to that in his previous job. We do administer Vermont alerts through our software for travel incidents. We have many, we're all about redundancies too, being 24/7 and providing this information to the public. We think a lot about that. So in our office, we have generator power, and we have a network of satellite phones if the need occurs. Amateur radio, which is, it's not the digital component, but it's, because the digital network needs our state network. So if our state network goes down, it compromises our normal radio channels.
You have several ham operators.
Yes.
You don't hear much about that. That's a good, you should say that, because you don't hear about there.
Yeah, it used to be a bigger thing.
Yeah, ham operator.
My fire department has one guy that's still.
Yeah.
Really?
Because in case, if you didn't realize the fan.
Yeah, you really do.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's the only thing that you have.
Our 9 maintenance districts, their district offices all have ham radios and operators, and then we have one on the TMC as well. We all cellular hotspots on our phones, so in a pinch, again, if your internet goes down, you have an opportunity to get online. And then I spoke about our portable Avtech radios, which is just our portable radio consoles, and then of course our office has generator power. And we also have backup internet at the office. We have actually the triple redundancy in the TMC in terms of internet, which is great.
Do you have a redundant center in case something happened to that?
Good question. Physically,
A second location.
Yeah, second one.
yeah, I have to get back to you on that one.
We've got the 4 in Colchester.
Yeah,
You could stand well.
so what's great and what COVID kind of forced us to do was this remote work.
Yeah.
So this is when we got our remote radio consoles. And that was really like the last piece of us to be like fully, mission essential functions 100% met when we're not in the office, was that radio piece. So really all we need is an internet connection. We can take our setups, you go to state police barracks if we had to. So we were really in a pretty good place in terms of staying online in the event something major happens. And I know we've talked a lot about all of this. There's this, the TMC uses all of our intelligent transportation systems to do their job. I manage our intelligent transportation system plan so that they dovetail together quite nicely. And this plan was actually just updated recently for 5 years. And it's really just about, again, managing, how many more message boards we're putting in. The ITS equipment is much more than just CCTV and RWA stations and message boards. We have weigh in motion stations that DV uses, all kinds of traffic counting devices. Traffic signals is part of that. It really is, the list goes on. Yeah, like I said before, any sort of device that's collecting information to help you manage traffic falls under that umbrella. Even pedestrian crossing buttons is part of that. So yeah, CCTVs. This is more in depth about ours. I know we talked about it quite a bit already. This is just an example of some of the sensors and something we haven't touched on yet that I would like to with these. All the way down at the bottom, the Wavetronics panel. So this is a traffic counting device. You'll also see them on traffic signals. If you see those little white boxes, those are devices that are detecting where the vehicles are, and that's how signals know, okay, this driver needs a left turn lane. And you might not have to sit there and wait for it if there's nobody else. It might turn automatically because these systems are detecting where the vehicles are and responding accordingly. So we have similar panels on our RWIS stations that are counting traffic. And they know how many number of lanes there are. They know how fast traffic's moving. And they know the occupancy rate. So basically how many vehicles are on the roadway compared to what the speed limit is.
Occupancy rate of the car. It's gonna be, wow, that would be great.
Yeah. But again, this is a great tool for us. We can see, we've provided after action reports, to the Vermont State Police or Vermont Emergency Management. If there's, a large incident, people want to know what happened, how it happened. We can show, when that grip value dipped, how the speeds responded. Like maybe people didn't slow down until after, well, it took them too long to slow down in relation to the grip on the roadway. So just another piece of the puzzle, providing information. This is a message board that I got a kick out of. This is from our coworkers in Maine. And this brings up a good point. You talked about the humorous messages or the more pop culture messages on our message boards. We do have to follow the regulations.
MUTCD.
Yes. We have to follow the rules, and generally, I guess I'm being honest, I think we're pushing the envelope a little bit, but it has to tie back to traffic control or safety. And that's the bottom line that we always, when we brainstorm these messages, we have to make sure that you can tie them back to.
I'm sure there's a lot of it that make the cut.
Yeah, I know there are. And it just,
But we can meet after live, we can meet after, you can tell us.
Or some high school kid.
Oh, yeah.
That happened with the Danville road construction, the kids.
Yes.
had to decide, Yeah,
Did they really?
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
every once in a while we get a
Made the
pretty,
news, it was something like, I don't know, zombies ahead, and, I mean, they had some, and
So how they climb over bridges and spray them. I mean, I can't imagine that. They spray,
yeah.
they're hanging on the overhangs and spray all their slogans. I can't believe how they
Yeah,
would do that.
sometimes there's some pretty colorful messages that end up on those boards, and there's always this brief moment of panic because we get the tip and we're like, okay, please tell us it's not one of
probably
ours.
the code, your passwords, you're probably not to imagine it.
Well, yeah, so it's contractor message boards, quite frankly. It's, they're required to use them for construction projects, and when they're changing them every day and someone's at them typing in a new message, I mean,
Does anybody see the moose traveling back and forth? I've never seen one of them.
Yeah. I have seen, actually,
Once.
on Route 2 near Hookerville,
Oh, you have? Okay.
there were 3.
You-
I've seen 3 accidents. One was a truck that was so new, it still had the temporary plates on it and had taken out a moose. There was I've seen 3
No, I've never seen one.
where the moose actually got killed. And then there were another one up around the curve. And actually, I've had moose on my lawn.
Really? Wow. Yes.
I raised this previously, and I'd be curious to hear your thoughts too, just to validate it. Since these things are so effective and they are received really well, and they seem to make a lot of sense, real-time changing communication signs, digital signage, I see these on portable trailers. I'm just wondering if we are looking at, and I'm wondering
They
about
are.
more permanent installations that would last longer and be cheaper.
yeah, certainly. So, and that's part of the ITX management plan, is sort of this approach to, okay, we have these portable boards, and at what point is it no longer portable when it sits there
And some
for
people
long
say
enough
that
that
they
it no
really
longer
are in
rolls?
violation of our sign law. They're like having billboards and they hate them.
Probably why I raised it. Are you hearing that?
Yeah, I've heard it in the past, particularly if they're for a long time and it's,
Oh, yeah, you'll show up, brand new trailer with no wheels anymore. Yeah, there's certain locations where we learn to
That's
take
what
the
I'm
wheels
saying. They
off.
steal every, kind of like converters.
But to your question, yes, we are considering, especially on the interstate network, the goal is to have one message board in each direction of travel between every exit. That's a long-term goal. So you can message no matter where an incident is. There's always there's a decision point where somebody can.
so would
get
you use existing signage to put them on or something, or would you?
No, these are usually dedicated on their own posts.
Because you've got to have obviously
There's
solar.
many challenges. So we don't have to have solar power. There are some that are on the grid. And that's the best way of doing it. The reality is solar in Vermont in the wintertime is a constant battle. It's constant maintenance. It's constant new batteries. It's a series. It's a solar panel and it's batteries, and they charge when they can. But we can't leave the boards on. Like if they would be left on 24 hours a day, you just wear them all out and the batteries would die.
Senator, we do have some permanent mount boards already exist, mostly across the interstate, so.
And so we try to take advantage of the locations that have power lines nearby whenever we can.
The board's been there for 8 years. Maybe it's here to stay.
Maybe it's time to put a permanent board, yeah. Yeah, some of them we move around, but oftentimes, like you said, you see the same one sitting there on wheels for, I think think of the one in Du Bois, in front of Du Bois Flats there on the interstate. I don't think that trailer would roll if one. So yeah, I was gonna take a minute just to talk about some of our enhancements that are happening. We published the new traveler information website last fall. That was a big push. Drastic improvements, works much better on any size device. It actually resizes for the device that you're on. Thin client application, which probably doesn't mean anything to most people. It's a shift away from an application. So when we access our software program, you're basically downloading an application off of the internet. You're using it. This is like a cloud-based. It's just a website. The servers live somewhere. It's much more modern. It's just up with the times. Better security, more flexibility to use across different web browsers and using it on your phone. Whereas right now we're very much so pigeonholed into Internet Explorer. You have to use a VPN, which is a virtual private network. So this is our next big step into making this program that we use to do our job much better. Esri integration. So this is I can't even think of what Esri stands for. This is like one of the
software vendor that are GIS.
Yeah, this is like big like world known mapping company. So they have ArcGIS Online is their big program. What we're doing, the 501 website is like the public version of how we administer the website. So we have this back end, and we're rebuilding it to include this GIS mapping functionality. And what it allows us to do is our mapping folks in Vermont, there's all kinds of data, right? Like where our guardrail information, our bridge information. I mean, the list goes on, and it's all in these GIS formats. So what it's going to allow us to do is the data that we create will be in GIS format. So it's going to allow other people to use our information more easily, no translation needed. And then similarly, we can take our already existing data and provide it to our operators while they're using the system. It gets a little complicated, but it's a big step forward in terms of modernizing our system. And part of that is also this Power BI integration, which is the visualization analytic tool. But again, you feed data and you can make visualizations, you can crunch numbers. It's kind of like Microsoft Excel on steroids. So this is going to be integrated directly with a system that should allow us to go get the data that we're creating, all the crash information, the weather information, all this, and report out on it. We're working on a project right now with the Wavetronics panels that are collecting the traffic speeds and traffic counts. Our bureau is providing a dashboard to the governor's office at certain locations on our borders and have vehicle counts. So this technology is counting those vehicles, and this integration with Power BI will make it a lot easier to report out on that information. So it's one thing to collect it, but then how do you go get it? How do you crunch
Like
numbers?
during COVID, they just had AOT personnel.
Exactly.
Physically counting.
Yeah. So part of this ITS umbrella are trailers that we deploy with these sensors, these Wavetronic sensors on them, and they count cars. You can put them wherever you want. And it's just collecting the data, and you don't need a person standing there doing it. Yeah, I think we could talk a little bit about probe data. I don't want to go too far into this. Some of you may know about
We've got
this.
about 5 more minutes. So.
Understood. So we've been talking about cell phones and new cars that are connected to the internet, and also like you're generating data whether you want it to or not. The vendors, whoever's providing your service, the manufacturers of vehicles, the manufacturer of cell phones, they're collecting your data and they're selling it. That's the reality. And Vermont we're directly in the throes of acquiring some of this data that these companies collect. Travel time and speed information, origin, destination. So where are people starting and where are they going? Volume estimates, and then conflation, which is a mapping component. But this is Vermont's only is one of 2 states in the continental United States that doesn't have any form of probe data. Delaware being the other state. So there's this rural aspect to it. It's like all of this information depends on connectivity to the internet, right? So you drive, you lose service, your cars, you can't use your GPS or your cellular network won't communicate. So those are all obstacles that we're well aware of, and one of the reasons why Vermont's been a little slower to adopt this information. But there's a major planning and policy component to this, and incident management as well from the TMC shop. So that's the completion of our slides.
Well, good job, lot to learn, a lot of information.
Just we could talk all day.
One layer of government that you don't really think about until you
Right,
come in, and
right, but it's
very, yeah,
beneficial.
very high tech, very, yeah, very up to date, very nice.
Next time you get caught on your phone driving, just tell them you're looking at the weather conditions.
Yeah, we could spend an entire day just talking about the 501 website itself and the services that it provides. So if you guys are curious and poke around on the website, you create an account, customize it. You know, if you only care about a certain number of cameras, you can like make your own camera wall, so you're not having to scroll through all of it. It's
Well,
pretty neat.
thank you for coming.
Yeah,
Thanks for
thank
having
you.
me.
Very, very nice, good presentation.
Okay, committee, we'll be back about 10:25.
On the,
Double diamond.
diverging diamond.
Visualization, we basically use Tableau.
Yep.
Power BI.